What's up, everybody? I'm GB. I got Brian. I got Coop. This is the Sports Counterpoints podcast. It's January the 3rd, 2023. Happy New Year, everybody. What's up, guys?
Happy New Year.
Man, I need to be there with y'all.
I know. We will. We will soon. So
Y'all
that's how
had
we do.
hella fun.
Yeah. New Year. The New Year kicked off properly. Shout out to the roots of Black Thought, our new homie. You know what I mean? Who we happened to meet during the concert. So.
Oh, you have to drop that in. Just drop that in, no doubt.
I mean, just in case he
I got you.
He may want to get on.
I ain't mad at you.
Give a shout out to him and Questlove, a couple of our new homies. So, but yeah, so what we do here is we talk sports, as you well know. And if you don't, welcome for the first time. Give us a like, subscribe, check us out. We appreciate you listening. So today's show, we're talking about, of course, Damar Hamlin and the horrific injury. I'm hoping that young man's going to be all right. We'll talk about, with that, this last week of the NFL. Next week's NFL games, some big college football games that happened this past weekend, and I guess in this last few days, and we'll kind of wrap it up from there. So, man, let's get to it. First and foremost, man, just obviously prayers and thoughts for Damar Hamlin and that injury that occurred, and I know it was like heavy on everybody's hearts and really affected a lot of us. And I've seen a lot of tears, and my mom was really taken aback, and people were just really hurt by it. So. Kind of, what are you guys' thoughts, on what happened, kind of where we go from here, just what were your initial reactions?
Hey, B, start with that. You're very eloquent and stuff like this. Go ahead.
I was sitting right next to Glenn, and we were watching the game, and it happened. When it first happened, I saw his legs wobble just a minute, and then he collapsed. So I was like, oh, he must have got hit in the head. And when they showed the replay, it clearly was not a headshot. Or he was the defensive player. He didn't instigate. It was nothing dirty about the play. But after I watched the first replay, when it was right at the beginning, both Glenn and I said, this is bad. We didn't know that what was going to happen next, which was 9 minutes and then trying to do CPR. We didn't know about that until later. We just knew that it was bad. We knew that as time went on, teammates started walking away in tears. Coaches were in tears. And if you've seen these situations where they bring the ambulances onto the field, it's always bad, and there's always a couple of emotional players. But the coaches usually don't get quite that emotional. They usually are able to keep it together for whatever reason, having been there too many times or whatever it was. And in the course of the afternoon, I think Glenn and I had seen 3 or 4 ambulances come out to pick carts out for the college games. And then in this pro game,
carts, not the ambulances.
Carts. One other ambulance, but there was just something you could tell was getting worse and worse by the second. And I think I remarked, this is the scariest, saddest thing that I've ever seen live, because at some point, about 9 minutes, it was about 5 to 8 minutes in. It was before the 9-minute mark. They cut to the studio staff, and all 3 of the studio staff were in tears, ESPN. And I looked at Glenn and I said, they know something. And at that point in time, they made the announcement that they'd been doing CPR for 9 minutes. And they were all in tears. And so I honestly believe that he was gone and I think I text message back with you, Jason, and said, I feel like the studio knows something but can't say it because they have to talk to the family first in those types of instances. And I just became sad. I stopped wanting to watch the footage, not what was going on, but the replay. And they were showing the replay over and over again. And I stopped wanting to watch it because I was afraid that what I was watching would be looked at later on as a man dying on the field. Anyways, that turned out to be incorrect, or at least not completely correct. Obviously, if he needed CPR and his heart had stopped, he was clinically dead for at least a moment or two.
Yep.
But that wasn't the end of the story, thank goodness. And then it went from the actual incident to the different responses so quickly. Watching the people in the studio, watching Scott Van Pelt's Sports Center, and he had who's the gentleman that was with him?
Ryan
Clark on there, and he was eloquent, and everyone was kind of stepping up to the plate. In a later segment, I'm going to tell you who didn't step up, but it was heartbreaking. And what I wanted to make sure that people who aren't sports fans recognize is that this was, as our friend Jelani said earlier, a freak accident, right? There's been decades of football. And what happened here is a clinical thing that can happen to athletes or any human being who gets hit at the right time in the right place with the right amount of power. It's an infinitesimal likelihood to happen, but if it happens, this is what the result is. This is not, we need to change the sport, and this is not, we got to protect our players from dirty hits. This is not, T. Higgins did something he wasn't supposed to do to brace himself for the contact. Not an iota of it. This is what happens when you have aggressive sports. It's happened, for other people who may not know this, it's happened in hockey 3 or 4 times the last 2 years ago for a Blues player. This has happened in baseball. This has happened in lacrosse. As a matter of fact, I learned today from a friend that lacrosse outfits, because of the way they check, because their things are pointy and it's really kind of a special pressure point, that they actually wear special padding that has a pad that's right over the heart area to make sure to try and help this type of thing from happening. Wouldn't be surprised to see that there. But anyways, that's more than my initial reactions. Jason, what were your thoughts when you first saw it happen?
When I first saw it, I thought it was just he would get up. I thought of Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson just got tackled, and he ended up needing hip replacement, all this type of stuff. So I just thought maybe he was just severely injured. Then the CPR stuff happened, just like you guys, and I'm like, whoa, this doesn't seem right. I hope he didn't die on the field. That's what I was saying. I hope he didn't die on the field. It was I didn't want to see the replays like you. The only reason I kept watching the telecast is I wasn't really interested in what Joe Buck and Troy Aikman had to say. I wasn't really interested in what Adam Schefter and the woman. All I want to know was if he was okay. That's the only reason I kept watching. If it wasn't for that, I thought maybe the game would, come back on maybe in 5 minutes or so. I would have just turned the channel and came back later. But it was really serious. I don't know this guy. I never heard him before in my life, but it was like I really felt something for him. So yeah, it was like, and like you said, you mentioned some incidents, but it also happened in wrestling one time. A wrestler died in the ring, Owen Hart, and then they just kept the show rolling 20 minutes later. And it also happened in soccer in Spain one time where a guy died. They went back to the locker room and they died. Well, he was in stable condition, I guess, a little later, and they just came back and played. I know we all agreed that the NFL did the right thing by calling the game. I didn't think it took that long to actually make that call, but and I have an idea, Brian, who you're going to say didn't step up to the plate, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let you say it, but yeah. Like all of us, we were all texting each other. Just hope this guy's all right. The game didn't even matter. I even forgot I was in a fantasy football championship game, to be honest with you. The guy had Josh Allen and T. Higgins. I totally forgot about that. It was all about Hamlin. Yep. So
it wasn't for an hour later that I was like, oh, I need to see what this impact was.
Right.
Actually, it was even more than an hour later. And then I don't even care. I lost a fantasy championship by 0.28.
Oh, really? You just conceded?
I had Josh Allen as my quarterback.
Yeah, you conceded? Okay.
Did not give a shit.
Right. So I got a question earlier from our cousin Jill. And Jill asked me, what do you think they are? Are they going to play this game? And I said, I think they have to because it has playoff implications. What you can do is you could the Super Bowl is 2 weeks, from the last playoff game. You're just going to have to back everything up. And it's not going to be like a bye week before the Super Bowl. It's just going to be play the game the next week because you can't move the Super Bowl. So I think all the week 18 games might get moved up one. They'll play this game on Sunday and they'll move the week 18 games the next week. And so it won't be a break at all for anybody.
I don't think they'll move all the games.
Yeah. So
they have to move this one, whatever they do. These guys may end up playing a back to back.
I'm glancing right now to see who each team plays this coming up week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
And because that kind of makes it whether or not, and both of those games have to happen.
Yeah, of course. You have to.
Buffalo, Cincinnati has to happen. Yeah, both games have to happen. Yeah, you're right. Week 18 games have to happen too. So
yeah, they got to figure out what they're going to do.
So I'm just thinking, just move it.
It was absolutely the right thing, like you said. Yeah. There should have never been a moment, and I'm glad that wasn't a consideration. Although I think it was.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah,
I think Brian, I'm maybe like you. Probably think the same thing. I think the players said they're not playing. I think that's what eventually happened.
So I said that. So Glenn and I were talking about that. I actually think I do not believe that the league did not have the 5 minute do the whole 5 minute warm up thing. Today they said they didn't do that.
Right.
But when ESPN gets it from the league office, the announcement that they made that they're going to have a 5 minutes to warm up. I mean, it's too specific for them to say that nothing happened or nothing along those lines. But what Zach Taylor did, so much respect. I said it a couple times last night while Glenn and I were sitting there. So much respect. He walks across the field, has a conversation with the coach, clearly teary-eyed and emotional about it, pats him on the back and kind of gives him a sign like, I got you.
Right.
And then they both talk to the referees, and then the Buffalo coach points to his guys and says, go to the locker room. Zach Taylor walks across and does that. They made that decision. There was no cell phones.
Right.
There was conversation with the refs and the two coaches. They made that decision. No one had headsets on. I think Zach Taylor and the coach, and I think the players both recognized that it was going to be too much. I think the coaches recognized it was going to be too much for their players, sent them back into the locker room. Because if they had canceled the game, or if they were considering canceling the game at that point in time, they could have made a command decision.
Yeah.
But what happened next was they went into the locker room. Later on, a couple minutes later, both the coaches came together. They both talked to what was clearly the league office.
Right.
Then the announcement came that the game was canceled. The league wasn't as on top of it as they should have been. I think it was a bad look because eventually I think they'll get caught lying about the 5 minute warm up. I mean, that stuff always comes out. The players had to have heard that we're going to do a 5 minute warm up. You know, the coaches. We knew the game was over before they had made the full announcement, because you could see the people on the field start packing up the stuff.
And the one thing I really noticed I've never seen before, a lot of players from both teams, even if they weren't crying, you saw their eyes were red. I've never seen that before. Not that many people. You'll see maybe a couple here or there, but not that many people. That's how I knew, it's real serious.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Across the board.
So.
And then other really wonderful things. Stephon Diggs was not a wonderful teammate for the Minnesota Vikings, but what he did, went to the hospital, was one of the first of his teammates to get there and try and make his way in. They said no, so he joined some players, some fans in out front praying, and then eventually was able to get in. Class move by him. You could tell that it was impactful to him.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, I honestly thought I might have just watched a man die on screen.
Me too. Glenn, any last words on this? I'm with you on that one, Brian.
I mean, you guys kind of said it, man. I was saying with Brian, like you said, so we kind of had the same thoughts. It was too long on the field, too many tears, paramedics out, talking about CPR, like none of that was good.
Right,
I immediately thought of Ryan Shazier when he got severely injured in that game, because you kind of had the ambulance come out and everything, and people were clearly emotional, but this had a different tone about it.
Yeah.
When you start talking about CPR and, 9 minutes, if these guys were sitting there and saw him on the ground, potentially not breathing or whatever, that's gonna have a major effect on you. So
once you say CPR, that's cold blue to me. I'm thinking something bad. So
CPR, his heart. They said his heart had stopped. That's cardiac arrest. They said they had entered a breathing tube. I think they did it in the ambulance though. But if you were to see all of that happen as a player, and the other thing that the players did that I don't know if it was intentional, but it was perfect, is they stood in a way to block the cameras from being able to see. We could not see the CPR being done. People in the crowd couldn't see the CPR being done because the players were kind of creating a shield. And I think it was intentional on there by players. It was well coordinated. It was such a moment of genius because, and I'm so thankful for this, we do not have a footage of him on the ground.
Right.
There's not TMZ footage. There's none of that stuff. I'm thankful for that for him and his family. And still hope that it recovers.
Yeah, everything doesn't need to be recorded. I'm with you on that. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you give idiots a camera in their hand, that's how it goes. But
the internet is a beautiful thing, man. Only problem is the idiots have access to it too. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, shout out to that young man. It was definitely a lot to see, and it definitely, after a pretty interesting weekend of football, was like brought everything kind of back to perspective of still, human life, and no matter how much people talk about rival teams and all that, when it comes down to it, everybody really seemed to care about this young man and hoping he was all right.
And there's so many reasons to dislike the NFL. Like I talk about them all the time. Non-fans consistently have reached out in text message or in conversation and said, "Oh, well, now they're going to have a lot of conversations about player safety." This isn't that.
Right.
Like, there are hits across the middle that happen every single game. That should spark player safety conversations.
Yeah.
This is an unfortunate tragedy brought about by two players making a clean, not even specific, especially hard.
Yeah.
It was a routine catch and tackle. No head injuries, nothing like that involved.
Yeah, freak stuff happened, man.
Fraction of a chance of happening, and this was that.
You can do whatever you can, whatever you want with the rules. Try to make it safer. It's still a contact sport, just like basketball. Yeah, it just happens. Like I'm not nowhere near comparing this situation, but 2 weeks ago, I thought it could have been serious because it was a fifth grader, huge fifth grader, struggling with another smaller fifth grader, and he yanked the ball away. Well, the smaller fifth grader lost his grip on the yank, came down the ground, hit head first. Immediately just ran out there just to see if the guy was already, and he was. But it's just freak stuff like that. It wasn't nothing dirty. I mean, sometimes this stuff happens. You hate to see it, but it's part of sports. So, thankfully,
it's part of life. I mean, these types of things, these types of things happen.
They happen. Yep.
Anyways.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so what's next?
It's ironic.
The rest of the week.
Yeah.
It's ironic that the teams that lost is on that side. The lucky team that won is on this side. I mean, very, very lucky.
I'm very glad you said lucky, brother.
Oh yeah. Woo! Oh yeah. And now, like I said, it's going to be a close one. Yeah, the Raiders could win this game.
Let's start with the Vikes because I don't know. Brian has a lot to say about
Not much. They are who I thought they were.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, we got pantsed. I thought it would have been a closer game, but there's a lot of factors. I think it's even more important that we have at least home field through the first round. I hope we keep. So we'll talk about this when we talk about next week, the playoff implications. But I hope we keep that one home game and possibly put ourselves in a position for 2 home games. I think it's going to be a really, really big deal for the Vikings. I'm not saying that they're going to guarantee they're going to win.
Right.
I can pretty much guarantee if they had to go into Green Bay again, they were going to lose. And I can guarantee that if we had to go into another, cold weather stadium, although I think most of the teams are either in warm weather or indoors in the NFC this year.
Yeah.
I think Green Bay is really the only one.
Yeah.
Eagles and the Giants too, but I don't think they're going to get it.
Nah, they're not winning the game. Don't matter. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not watch any of your game, Brian. All I did was kept looking at the stats because
I didn't want to, so we have that in common. So we started the morning watching the game intently, all the games, and about the end of the first quarter, maybe the beginning of the second quarter,
it was early.
I said, all right, let's pull up the PlayStation and start playing some 2K3.
Wait.
It was time to.
Wait, the 49 Raider game was going on at the same time, right? When you watching that, Glenn?
He was paying somewhat. He was paying attention.
So he had the game. Brian had the game on one screen, and then it was early in the game. He said, "I'm not watching this."
Oh, okay.
Sound. And they were.
I took the sound, and I still had it on.
Yeah.
But there was nothing to watch or be interested in.
Yeah.
It was a tough showing. And it's just interesting how this year's been like so up and down. You might be good one week, and the next week it's smoked, and good the next week. And matchups really matter.
Coaching needs to get better.
I know that Brian knows this. They're 12-5 with a minus 19 point differential. I don't know how the hell. That's just damn near impossible, man. But they're still 12-5.
I wish.
Or 11-5, something like 12-4, something like that. But yeah,
We're the opposite. I wish. But yeah, so we watched that game, and then the Raiders-Niners, man, and it was I said we were gonna get smoked, and the fact that we didn't, I didn't think was good.
I said we weren't. I'm gonna tell you something. So a lot of things to unpack here. Number one, Brock Purdy actually won us that game. We needed his arm because the defense wasn't really on par. and he needed to throw the ball to win. I was just thankful that Garoppolo wasn't playing because we would have definitely lost if he was.
I would argue
McCaffrey.
Yeah, I'd argue there's another important white man.
Oh, no.
McCaffrey was playing so well and established the offense way early. I mean, it was first 5 minutes of that game, and he had already had 80 yards.
But in that second half, Purdy made a lot of passes to Ayuk. He missed Kittle a couple times. You could tell though that deep ball is, kind of dies out a little bit. But Nick Bosa, I think, won us that game. And if Nick Bosa did not push the lineman into Stidham, I think Stidham would have completed that pass, or it would have been a pass interference, and the Raiders probably would have had to go ahead touchdown and won, because we can't guard Devontae Adams. I don't care how good people say our defense is. Our guys can't guard guys like Devontae Adams or other top receivers one-on-one if our defense can't get pressure. So got to give credit to the Raiders offensive line. They allowed no sacks, like none at all. And when the 49ers can't sack the quarterback, the corners get exposed. And that's pretty much what happened. And Stidham did a good job. The Raiders had a good game plan in the beginning. They acted like they were going to run Josh Jacobs, but they were rolling out Stidham to try to, offset the defense. So it was, and teams with who run a version of the West Coast offense and have one good receiver like the Raiders, at least one good receiver like the Raiders, gives us trouble. So I knew this game was going to be close. We can't really stop West Coast offense teams like that, especially if they got one good receiver. And Devontae's a guy we can never guard. Can't guard him.
Yeah, no, he's ridiculous anyway. Yeah. I knew, so from the Raiders standpoint, I was really impressed. And I think Josh McDaniels by sitting Carr as much as, it's created a lot of controversy, right? Because I don't think Carr's definitely not the reason for the games we lost. Mm-hmm. I don't know if, him in the same offense, knowing the offense, like Stidham clearly knew it, potential to be, just as impactful. But Stidham came out there, he was swaggy, he had energy, he brought a different spark at a well-needed time. And I thought for McDaniels, it was kind of smart, because against this number one vaulted, high praise defense, come out there, put up 500 yards, be the first team to rush for 100 yards, put up 34 points, showed a lot of how my offense can work. Now you just got to win the games, right? So it's like, let me get my guy in here, whoever that is, and we can get the offense going. We'll get some money on defense and we can win. So I saw that. I thought from the Niners standpoint, like everything you said is true. And I appreciate your honesty to it, because I was about to come in here clowning for sure on Sunday. But I just got to get a lot of texts from Niner fans, nothing during the game, but at the end, Niners, whoop-de-whoop. And I'm like, man, if anything, I'd be honestly a little bit scared.
Right.
Because you
found the cracks have been exposed.
It was obvious how to beat this team. And I think Brock played good. I'm going to give Brock Purdy his points. I think Kittle, McCaffrey is everything. So make sure he gets to the game safely. You go pick him up, you take him home, because sometimes in him, that's it.
And then it is.
I went
200 yards in total offense.
He went crazy. We were watching the game, he was obviously the difference maker.
Even late, when Purdy was throwing the ball more, the reason they were able to throw the ball more is that second was make sure McCaffrey does not get open.
Yeah. And the thing about Brock, though, the reason why I love this game is because, we won, but we were down. And I said, Brock has to beat the Buccaneers and he has to beat the Raiders. He has to beat the Buccaneers because Tom Brady's on the other side. So that's always a big game. The Raiders, this was like a playoff game to me. This had a playoff game atmosphere to me. And the 49ers were down by 10. So this is some adversity for Brock. Brock has been playing with leads. Defense has been killing it. Today, the defense didn't kill it. Today, he didn't have a lead. He had to come back and try to win the game. And so I'm happy that he was able to pass, I would say, this test. I'm not saying the Raiders are a great team, but they're definitely not a bad team. They're definitely not a bad team.
One thing I'll say about the whole Carr Stidham whole thing is that had Carr played in that game and threw for 295 and 3 touchdowns and 2 picks, the narrative today would be, if he hadn't thrown the 2 picks.
Yeah.
Stidham is getting a pass, and now he deserves it. He played well.
Yeah.
He played a very solid game, but the eye that Carr would have been put under for the same stats because of the 2 picks.
Yeah.
They would have said, that's him. He, throws the pick in a crucial situation, and that's why we lose.
Yeah.
So I don't think this anoints McDaniels because they played this game well.
No.
I think it just, they had a good game plan. It worked out. They played well. They've done this in other games with Carr. But I don't think this is I don't think this is the time to say that maybe McDaniel has a better future. I still don't think.
No. I've told Raider fans, McDaniel, as long as McDaniel's is there, I don't think you're going to be a contender. I just don't think he's that good of a coach. And Stidham is not the answer at quarterback. He's not a starter. They're going to get somebody else to come in there. If Stidham was a better player, he would have still be in New England right now, and Belichick would have kept him. But yeah.
I think, I get what you're saying to the both of that. For Carr, I think the issue is we haven't had the 3-touchdown game this year because I don't think he knows the offense. So he really hasn't looked sharp.
Maybe, yeah.
He hasn't brought that energy. I love Carr. I've been talking about Carr for years. I remember when he got drafted, how I wouldn't play Madden until y'all let me draft the custom roster so I can put Carr in and not play Schaub. Shout out to Matt Schaub. But so I think that was part of it. Is Carr never looked that sharp all year, and I think a lot of it's because he didn't know the offense.
Yeah,
he wasn't comfortable in it. So I'm always give Carr his props because he's played good games. But I saw Stidham. The difference was I saw somebody who knew the offense, could run the plays as they were called, and it just looked sharp. And it didn't look like. Honestly, if that's the issues, the West Coast offense and a good receiver, it didn't. Until he got pushed into the lineman and the other one hit he hit a lineman's arm and it popped up and it hit the arms of another guy. Beyond that, I wasn't thinking that this defense is just slowing them down so much. They were moving.
It wasn't.
No. 500 yards and 100 rushing yards and first team to score back-to-back possessions and all that. I was kind of surprised. And so from that position against Stidham, we're going to see. I think to your point, they're going to want to star somewhere. I know it seems like Mark Davis, especially now, likes names. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be surprised when Tom Brady or someone comes in because they want a bigger name.
Right.
Stidham played very well. He brought a new energy. It was good to see. I was excited. That was the best game of the weekend. Not just because my team was in it. It was by far the best game, I thought, from what I saw.
Yep.
And I don't know. If I'm a Niners fan, I'm a little bit concerned. Like, you shouldn't be struggling. Basically, I went back to look at this season, and this defense, man, I think you faced Mahomes, Herbert, Wilson, Brady, and then now Stidham put up 300-some yards on y'all. Beyond that, you had Tua, you had Carson Wentz, you had all these guys that are by your admonition, not that good, and they held them to no points and not that surprising. So in the playoffs, when you play a team that has a good offense and a fair defense, I think there's some concern there.
I don't think it's too much. It depends on who we're matching up against, and that's all it is. If we match up,
make fights.
Yeah,
I think you all would lose to Philly.
Oh, I don't think so. Philly's so banged up right now. I don't think we would lose it.
Yeah, but you're gonna play them until the last NFC.
Yeah.
5 weeks away.
Yeah, if they get that far, we'll see.
Yeah, well, you had a rushing quarterback who Stidham isn't. I wouldn't say he's a rushing quarterback. It's crazy.
Running quarterbacks you guys have trouble with. Top receivers, AJ Brown.
I'm kind of
solid. Not 50.
I've seen Philly play in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts last year. They were pretty bad.
Not last year.
I can't anoint them, and they've done nothing.
I saw you all playing the playoffs last year. Last year and this year, it's two different things. Different personnel, different. They didn't have AJ Brown last year. They don't have. They don't. You didn't have.
Everybody else is the same. AJ Brown's the only difference.
And you just said they have a problem with top wide receivers. He is a top wide receiver.
I was put it like this.
No way.
It doesn't sound like I'm hating, but I wasn't impressed by. I was expecting to see the Niners come out and make a statement, not struggle to barely win.
Well, they won a game.
I didn't.
I give them credit for that.
We decided to win Raiders.
But I do think, I do think that the as for as much talent as the San Francisco 49ers have, there's still a gap that can be exposed by good teams and good good game plan. And I think a top team like Philly could do that.
And the gap is,
I don't think they'll have any trouble with the Dallas. I don't think
the AFCs are probably too.
The gap is, if the 49ers defensive line cannot generate pressure, those are all the games we lose. They cannot generate any pressure. And so that's it right there. Philly. And so that's how you beat the 49ers. You have to stop the defensive line generating consistent pressure. That's when we lose.
And to be fair, right? Won the game, a lot of key plays, great players, amazing. John Lynch should be in the conversation for exec of the year every single year because he puts together a team like no other consistently. With solid defenses, great offense. I was just thinking, like, if I'm Shanny, who also had a good game plan, I'm treating this like a loss. Like, we're in here.
Oh yeah, I would too. Yeah,
we're not. I mean,
Yep.
I'm overboard, but for me, you know, we're Laker fans. So when the Lakers are winning championships, you know, I've seen my team win a championship, and we're also, you know, extremely hard on teams that are expected to do well. If
Yeah.
you're an okay team, all right, cool, you get by. If you're a team that's supposed to be something, you clean up that stuff. So there's a lot to clean up.
Yeah, it started with Washington, but yeah, you're right. Yep.
Amazing game. I thought it was so much fun to watch. And shout out to the Niners. You guys definitely got that win. The stadium was like I thought.
You were right about the stadium. You was right. I thought you was gonna be wrong. It was a lot of Niner fans up in there.
It's like 70%. So again, that's a home playoff game now. That, you know, I just thought the Raiders showed me a lot. I don't know what it's going to mean going forward. I don't know what's going to happen, but it was fun to actually see my team look like a team. So for that period of time, so hell of a game, man. I gotta give props.
Well, quickly on other games that week. I mean, the Bucs game was huge. Brady had a resurgent game. You know, all of it went to Mike Evans.
Mike Evans,
yet another top wide receiver team that you all will have to worry about game planning. Their offensive line though is garbage. So I think you guys will have to pressure on that.
Yeah,
but that was a really great game. It was also fun to watch, kind of a resurgent moment for Tom Brady, and you know, Mike Evans not dropping every single darn pass, which he's been doing the last couple of weeks. I mean, his drops have been ridiculous. I have to imagine he got out there and practiced and catching them up. The Steelers win was unexpected. I didn't think they were even good enough.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Not Lamar Jackson, but it's always interesting to go into the last week and have the Steelers in the playoff hunt. There's a reason why Mike Tomlin's job is one of the safest in football. It's not just because he plays for the best organization when it comes to being a coach, which is Pittsburgh. Almost never goes on from a coach, but it also has to do with
they recruit extremely well.
Also. He finds, but credit to Tomlin. Like, this is not a talented team. They have lost all the talent they've gotten over the last few years. You know, running backs, wide receivers, you name it. They're not in Pittsburgh, and they're scraped and clawed their way, at least in the conversation. I don't think they're going to be the team that gets in, but to be in that conversation in week 18 is an accomplishment in itself for a team that should be even worse than it's. At least record-wise.
Yeah, a few notes of the games, man. It's the Seahawks, man. I mean, the Jets, they rushed back Mike White, and it didn't look too good. The Seahawks receivers only had 5 catches for 33 yards. They pretty much exposed the Jets linebackers, which I didn't know were that bad in pass coverage. So that's probably something they need to do. Carolina was out their top 2 corners, like you said, Brian, and Mike Evans just burned them. They just burned them for like 2 or 3 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah. The part about that was important was catching the ball.
Yeah. He won 11 games this year without a touchdown, which is ridiculous for Mike Evans' talent. And Josh Norman was starting at safety. I didn't even know he was in the NFL.
He was. So it's a good story. You should look it up if you're interested. He played
for us last year. He sucked. I'm not looking that shit up.
It's a good story. He was running a coffee and breakfast shop across the street from another old teammate in, I guess, Carolina. Got the call. Was added to the practice squad. He agreed to do it mainly because he was in the city, and then they made him a starter. Like, he literally got called to the practice squad on a Tuesday and made a starter on Saturday.
Oh, damn. You know, and that's why they got cooked in the secondary. My coach of the year, Brian Dable, put a thrashing on the Colts. I mean, the Colts. But then I heard today that Jim Irsay is really. Yeah, Jim Irsay is really considering hiring Jeff Saturday as his full-time coach, and that right there is just, you know, whatever.
Should have to interview.
But other than that, I don't really have. Trevor Lawrence has actually been killing it. Trevor Lawrence can make my Jacksonville win the division prediction correct if they actually win.
Yeah.
And I think, and personally, I don't know if you guys think, we don't have to talk about him, but I think Wentz's career is probably over. I don't see any team. He reminds me of Jay Cutler. People just don't like him. You know, and he's bad too. So
Wentz is a good Jay Cutler was a jerk. He was a complete jerk. I think people still like Wentz as a locker room guy, not as a starting quarterback.
I don't think.
Whereas Jay Cutler, you know, the minute he was washed up, they didn't want him anywhere in the state.
Yeah. People hated him. So
quick point too, Coop. You mentioned these Lions. You've been for 2 years saying the Lions was going to do something, and they trying to prove you
great coaching. Great coaching.
Shout out.
Man, they were up 10-7 on the I still don't get the whole Justin Fields thing. I don't know what people seeing them, but they just keep losing games is what I see. 11 out of 12 or 12 out of 13, whatever.
Got to get him some
But
players, but to
Detroit,
your point, it is tough.
Detroit
fantasy
was
football quarterback this year.
Yeah, they were down 10-7, and Detroit just blew the doors off. But Detroit's going to lose to Green Bay. I'm sure we'll talk about the upcoming games, but they're not going to get in the playoffs. Green Bay's going to win that one. But
And so then it would be exactly as I think I predicted. I think you're the same way, but it would. Well, actually, no. I had Green Bay first, and then Vikings second.
Right.
Then Detroit, and then Chicago.
Yeah.
But yeah. But anyways, let's move on to Week 18. I think, right?
Yeah. Next upcoming week. So
Chiefs Raiders.
What's the line?
Saturday. What do we got here? Minus 7.5 for Kansas City.
I think we'll. I don't know if we'll win, but I think we'll probably get the spread. Division games are always close. And the Chiefs have been playing a lot of close games recently.
Yeah, I think Chiefs cover this one and win handily because I think the Raiders put everything in the last game against the 49ers. They put a lot in that game. I don't think the offense is going to look nearly as good.
And teams are
Kansas City.
For the week after playing
the 49ers.
The 49ers.
Yeah. Yep.
I think so too. Also because it's a really important game for the Chiefs. They still have designs on a top seed, which they can get with a win, and they have the disadvantage of playing a day early. So before anything is decided, they have to go in there and get a decisive win.
Yeah.
And then let sit back and let it happen. I think that's proper motivation. That's not to take anything away from the Raiders. I just think it's situationally, this is going to be a game that Mahomes is going to come out and try and throw the gauntlet quickly.
Yeah.
And hopefully, have a big lead late so that they don't have to worry about it. That's the goal.
Yeah.
We'll see if they accomplish it.
Division games can be close, especially after beating the Broncos by 3, but we'll see.
Yeah.
What else? What is, guys? Vikings, Bears?
Yeah. Minnesota's a 6-point favorite against the Bears. Here's the thing, and this is what I was hinting to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It may be better for the Vikings to lose this game.
Damn.
And it's a real problem. So if you're the Vikings, if you win,
You can't win.
and Green Bay makes it into the playoffs, you play the Green Bay.
Right.
You play them in Minnesota, but you play Green Bay. It's 2 versus 7. If you lose, you play the Giants.
Exactly. And that's why.
At home.
Right.
Either way, at home.
Well, that's why I want Minnesota to win, and I want us to lose to the Cardinals so we can play the Giants. The 3rd seed team is playing the Giants. The 2nd seed team, we match up well. Yeah, we'll play the Packers. We match up well against them, but it's still the Packers, and you never know. So
yeah, you guys match up really well against them. We do not. And we did well at home, though.
Right.
We did not, obviously, this week. I think it's a different game at home than it did. The advantage of being the 2 seed is you skip 2 home games.
Home games, yeah.
And I think that might be enough to make it worthwhile. So I really don't know. Obviously, if you're Kevin O'Connell, you probably want this team. You want to get a win just so you can remind yourself how to do it.
So
if you
Brian,
lose, I don't think it's the worst situation.
So Brian, so we're tied, and we have the tiebreaker against you because we have the better conference record. To be perfectly honest with you, Brian, I think both of us are going to win. And the reason why I think it's very important for us to be the 2nd seed and have those 2 playoff games was we have a rookie at quarterback, and so we need those.
I agree with that. That makes perfect sense.
We need those.
But anyways, so like I said, we end up going against the Giants. I think that's a team that we match up better against because the way to beat us is just throw at us, throw nonstop. We give up yardage in huge chunks, nonstop, have all season. And then when we get down to close to the red zone, we tighten up and make people kick field goals. So the way to beat us, as Green Bay figured out, is you just keep throwing it over the top and big plays. You don't have to worry about us tightening up our defense in the red zone, and you get there. So, anyways, I do think the Vikings win this game. I'll even say that they cover the spread.
Yeah, me too.
Just from a matchup standpoint, the Bears don't match up well with the Vikings, and that's not to say that I think the Vikings are special. It's just kind of the situation.
The Bears are just
kind of going down the list. Or
what do you think about the Jets in Miami? That game looks like a pick 'em. Jets in Miami at Miami. Who you like? Miami needs it to get in.
Yeah, Miami needs to get in. I think they're toast. I think they're done.
Yeah, they had a rough go, man. Their schedule was front loaded. They played everybody in the back end.
Well, that and then every time they put a quarterback out there. So the last time they had Tua got hurt. Teddy comes in and gets hurt. And then they ended up on the 3rd string against us. The same thing happened. Tua got hurt. Then Teddy got hurt in the first quarter. And it's time to put it away. That's not to say that the Dolphins haven't had a great season and beat expectations and put themselves into a playoff conversation again, just like we were talking about with Pittsburgh. That's all very respectable. I just don't think it's in the cards for them.
Yeah. I know. I'm sure you guys are going to go. It's Buffalo, New England. New England needs it to get in. They're not beating Buffalo, right?
I don't know where Buffalo or the Bengals are even going to, like, what their mind state's going to be. I kind of feel like the Bills are going to come out going hard because of playing for Hamlin.
Yeah, right.
But I just, it's hard to tell, man. Like, how do you get people back up for that?
Okay. Buffalo at home, -7.5. They're going to win, and they're going to win big.
They're going to trounce them. They're going to kill them.
If that game was on the road, I would feel a little bit differently.
Right.
But that stadium is going to be just a bottle of emotion. Those players are going to play their heart out. I have to imagine. I can't believe that they're going to give anything less than 150%.
Yeah. They're going to kill New England.
I think it would be a big difference if they weren't playing at home. They're playing at home. Yep. It's an important game.
Last game of the season.
And they're gonna go out there and handle their business.
Yeah. 2 more games. Giants and Philly. Now I know it's Philly -14. The Giants are in regardless. Brian, do you play your starters?
And they're in that spot.
They're 6th seed. They're not right. So
they're not moving from that.
So do you play your starters if you're the Giants? Philly needs to win that game to maintain #1 seed.
So I do think that they play their starters, but if they get behind early, I imagine you start seeing someone other than Saquon do it. But I think you never want to sit them because you get that whole situation where they don't come out as crisp, but I can certainly see only at halftime, especially if the Eagles get up early.
Yeah. The Giants, Dable came from the Patriots. He was with the Patriots for a little bit. The Patriots played guys on the last week. Dable's going to play. Giants don't have Super Bowl aspirations. It's the Giants. Of course, they need to play. They need to play. Try to build some momentum and set the tone for when they go to the playoffs. Resting starters for the Giants is not going to mean nothing.
But I would never in a million years touch this line at 14 points.
No.
Just because you don't know who's playing. That's like betting on preseason games, man. I have no clue who's going to be in there in the fourth quarter.
Right.
When, and who's going to make a big play and when they're going to do 3-and-out field goals, because why not, why not do that as opposed to trying a hard run or a pass across the middle. You definitely are going to see a whole bunch of base formations and throws away from contact for both of these teams who are going to be in the playoffs and don't need injuries.
Yep.
What we got to talk about. Go ahead. Who you got next?
No, Detroit and Green Bay is just the last game. I gave you guys my thoughts. Jared Goff.
Let's talk about Ravens Bagels, because that's another one that's kind of.
Is Lamar playing?
So that's the idea. Is that Lamar's supposed to come back this week. They haven't announced it, but this was the game that he was supposed to come back. But it's an important game for the Ravens. And the Bengals also, it doesn't look like they're going to have had a game this past week. And so they got to go out there and win. It's the Bengals. They haven't even put a line on it yet.
-7.
So, I don't even know.
-7.
Huh?
-7. Bengals -7.
Okay, I don't even see the line on here. But anyways, I would just say the Bengals are going to go and win. This is a better team.
Yeah, me too. I'm
with or without Lamar.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Again, reminder: I really like Lamar Jackson, but coming back after injury against a top team who's playing for a playoff position, is more than I think most teams can handle.
Yep. On that. And then you guys know my thoughts on Green Bay, Detroit. Jared Goff on the road, must-win game in Green Bay. I'm good. I'm out. Take Green Bay by a mile.
I will tell you that if I had I think Dan Campbell's teams will play hard for him. But if I had any doubt that Green Bay was about to spank them, it changed when they flexed it to the evening. It is cold in Green Bay.
Yep. That 5:20.
They're going to play a night game in that cold. Getting hit hurts more. Even eating popcorn hurts more. Being in those stands. Anyways, I think Green Bay is going to definitely win that one.
And Jared Goff is the quarterback, so that's an advantage. So you're good. Yep, you're good. You're Green Bay.
I don't have any of the Jared Goff hate. He's played real respectably this year.
He has.
But
I'm not taking him on the road in Green Bay.
Got a more storied career than your quarterback.
Okay. Who? Brock Purdy?
He's played in the Super Bowl.
So did Garoppolo, and they both wet the bed in the Super Bowl too. One had 3 points, the other
I'm just
had,
saying current quarterback. I don't know where Jimmy about to be at.
Oh,
I hope it's
current.
not us. I just hope it's not Raiders.
It won't be.
Where are we at next?
Word. So what about college football, man?
Man.
I was here with Brian, so we watched pretty much everything. What you think?
I'll start with the college football playoff games, man, with TCU beat Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm happy TCU won, but I see why Michigan lost. I mean, Michigan is a power run team, and they were trying to throw the ball down the sideline and do Philly special trick plays and all this type of stuff, and that's not who Michigan is. And I mean, I give credit to TCU. I mean, I'm sure they were motivated by that Michigan linebacker saying that he didn't know what conference that TCU played in and they didn't belong there. So I'm sure that was fuel and motivation for TCU, but they went out there and they kicked Michigan's butt. But you can also tell there was a layoff too for about a month because the tackling wasn't all that good and the defense wasn't too crisp. But TCU put up 50 on Michigan, so they deserve to win the game.
I see it differently. I mean, TCU jumped out to a big lead. They had some really big plays. Michigan looked like they were going to get housed, and it was the trick plays and opening the playbook that brought them back into it and made the game, interesting late. I mean, there were some big plays by Michigan, but if you looked at that game, before the half, it was the darn sure did not look like Michigan was even going to be a one-score game. It looked like they were going to lose by 2-3 scores, and that wouldn't have hurt my feelings any. Shout out to I have a really, really good friend who, when they were coming back, was just losing it on text messaging. He went to Michigan, real rough for him. But TCU looked like a strong football team. We'll talk about who I think will win in the championship, but they look like they deserve to be in the game. I think I would have liked to have seen other teams take their shot, but they didn't let it down. They didn't get blown out like a lot of people thought.
Yeah, TCU actually has a couple of NFL players on the team. The quarterback really didn't play that well that game, but he's an NFL prospect. So, but yeah, shout out TCU. What's your thoughts on Ohio State and Georgia?
Crazy.
Yeah, we
didn't get to see all of it, but
but we did get to kind of keep eyes on it. We were out, congratulations to Georgia. I think they're a good team. It's a crazy finish to a game, and I can't say that I'm unhappy to see Ohio State lose.
And Michigan go down.
Yeah, SC going into that conference in the not too distant future.
Another team that went down.
So they didn't have like half their players playing. Caleb played and he played great. Yeah. But anyways, if we want to talk about other ones, the USC Tulane game was actually very, very entertaining. Again, a lot of players not playing on USC side, but Caleb Williams looked very good. The defense got blown up. Their defense is actually very similar to the Vikings. They were very dependent on big plays, turnovers, things of that nature to make them look like they're a decent team. They stiffen up and cause some field goals. But the way to beat them, which Tulane figured out, was big plays. And they had the really fast kid, I can't remember his name, who was just tagging them for 40-yard plays, 30-yard plays, 25-yard plays, made a huge difference. And ultimately Tulane found a way to win at the end, 46-45 in a great finish. So
for Georgia, Ohio State played like I thought they would play. I thought, because they were called soft for a month, that they would come out and play a really good game, and they would definitely cover that 7-point spread that initially came out. But Ohio State's, the main thing about them, they gave up 400 yards passing to Stetson Bennett, and Stetson Bennett is not a good quarterback for Georgia. He's not even an NFL prospect, and he just blew that defense up. So that's very concerning for Ohio State going forward, to trying to fix that defense.
Stetson Bennett is going to be your backup in a year.
Shit. and then for USC Tulane. Yeah, I bet Tulane, but I admit it. I turned off the TV when it was 45-30. I just was like, okay, they're about to lose. I didn't even watch the finish. I don't even know how. I saw they were getting close. They were down by like 4 or 5, and they scored. I just checked my phone and saw they scored a touchdown. So I don't even know what happened, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm just happy I covered
great finish. They'll have a replay.
Won money. Yeah.
It was a good game to watch.
So what about going forward for the playoff? Who you guys got?
I'm gonna tell you right now, anybody that's looking for a competitive championship game, don't watch, because Georgia's going to house TCU. This game is not going to be close. My money's already down on TCU. Anybody out there that want to bet me, you can tab the 13.5 points. I'll take Georgia all day. Georgia has backups better than TCU.
I only have it at 12.5, man. You gotta go get your book is making you work harder than you need to. Anyways, yeah, no, I absolutely agree that Georgia's going to go and pants TCU. And that's not a knock on TCU. It's just there's a reason why some of these teams are really that good, and it's because they can go and consistently beat the Ohio States, the Michigans, the LSU's, the Alabama, so on and so forth. Georgia's done that. It's very, very rare that I say these other teams have played stiff competition, because most of them play, the Rocco Barber College of East Nowhere. But Georgia's had a pretty strong test throughout the season this year. So
yeah. Any thoughts, GB? No thoughts?
Nah, I don't.
Okay.
Man,
you don't do college. I got you.
Yeah, I'll watch it if it's on, but I ain't sure.
I love college.
Word. All right, man. So kind of last thing, man. This is Brian segment we've been doing for a few weeks, man. A bunch of hogwash, man. What y'all got?
Brian, you go ahead. You go first.
Oh, well, I just thought it was real interesting. And it's a bunch of hogwash that it's taken this long for Skip Bayless to finally start getting canceled over its comments he made about the injury. So he almost immediately said, hey, they can't not play this game because because it's got all these playoff implications and all this other stuff. And immediately the world took to Twitter like, oh, Skip Bayless is a jerk. Yeah, you're just figuring it out.
Right, exactly.
But anyways, it's a bunch of hogwash what he said. I also just think it's a long overdue to finally figure out that this is a guy who's been, making outlandish and crazy statements for quite some time and getting away with it. I know you probably expected me to say it's a bunch of hogwash to believe that the NFL actually didn't plan that them to finish that game the other night, which it was. They definitely planned on that happening. It's a bunch of hogwash that they even thought about it. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I got two things regarding quarterbacks. Number one, Justin Fields only completing 7 passes against Detroit's defense. That's a bunch of damn hogwash. That defense is bad.
They're a bad defense.
You only complete 7 passes. I don't understand why people believe in him. The other thing is Russell Wilson. He's played bad this year for Denver, yet he has his own shower, his own parking lot, parking space, his own offices, his own this, on that. You need to just take all that stuff away.
That's why his team hates him.
Yeah, exactly. You take all that. That's a bunch of hogwash to give him all that, and his extension still doesn't kick in for another 2 years. It starts at $50 million. So just take all that stuff away. He might be a better player. Have him actually meet his teammates, not have a separate shower. So that's a bunch of hogwash.
I've seen his teammates putting tweets out about how they like him, and then Skip's thing. He said it's what's the NFL going to do, because this game has implications, but it's not important right now.
Well, at the very end, he just put that caveat in there. And I actually disagree. I actually agree with what you're saying and disagree with folks who think this is a moment. I just think, like I said, I think it's funny that they're just now figuring out that guy's a jerk.
Yeah, that part I'm with you on.
Welcome to where you been?
Right.
I was seeing some fake outrage. Like, what are y'all talking about?
I don't know if this is real or not, because I was working today and I didn't get to see it. Did Shannon Sharp refuse to show up to the show today as a result of that?
Yeah, that's what I saw the thing about.
So I saw it was, I think someone sent a TMZ article basically that he hosted by himself, and it was because Shannon Sharp was because there's a video of Shannon Sharp reacting to what happened, independent, not as part of the show. But someone sent that around to us, and it's very, very interesting, because in order for it to get to the point where Shannon Sharp doesn't show up, Skip had an opportunity to call Shannon and say, hey, hey, man, read what I wrote. This is what I meant. At the end, I say, none of this matters. And he clearly could not convince Shannon that, or, in my opinion.
Skip, you don't mean that, Skip. Okay.
Yeah.
Last week, Skip said Shannon was trash when he was talking about Tom Brady. So they already got their own little issues. But I didn't have one actually.
It's trash.
Hogwash wise. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying I don't watch that show because Skip Bayless is on the show, so that's why I don't watch it. I can't listen to Skip Bayless. So.
Yeah, there's some clips sometimes. I thought I didn't have one. I just thought about this, but I got it. Man, I'm coming back to this game, but I had some of the Niner fans, man, hitting me with, oh, refs trying to cheat us, but we still did it. I'm like, bro, if y'all are gonna say that the refs tried to help the Raiders win, stop it.
Well, I mean, we're not going to argue about it, but it wasn't a catch. But I mean, that's all right. I mean, Devontae made a hell of a play. It wasn't a catch, but it's fine.
Y'all eyes are better than mine, and I know y'all eyes are better than mine. But okay. I mean, I
thought it was a catch.
All right. I'm just saying, and me and you cool, we good, but they talking about that wasn't a pass interference. This wasn't a hold. The Raiders were. I'm like, bro, stop that. You had a 75% crowd in a home game. You're supposed to be the best defense in the league. You won barely, take the win and get out of here. Don't be coming at me like talking about no refs to a Raider fan. Stop it. Stop it.
Well, you got a point there. You do got a point there. You can't tell refs to Raider.
Good game. That was a fun game to watch. Would have been fun to be there, but there's no way I was paying them ticket prices. So y'all got it. Y'all got it. So yeah, it was, man, a great week. I thought an interesting week of sports. Again, Damar Hamlin, man, I'm present with you. Get back. Take care of yourself, man. Forget football. Just get healthy, man, so you can be there with your family. Last end of the show, man. I appreciate you guys as always. Here on location with B. Coop, thanks for calling in. Minute to win it, man. This is your time to throw whatever it is.
I'm gonna stay with the quarterbacks, man. I'm gonna give a shout out to two guys, Kenny Pickett, Brock Purdy. Kenny Pickett seems like every time I watch a Pittsburgh game, they always have 3 points the entire game. That's right. So the Pittsburgh games, man, they're boring. It seemed like they only got 3 points to the final 5 minutes of the game. Then Kenny Pickett comes down and, wins the game, gets a touchdown. And then Brock Purdy, I mean, he made a lot of key passes, crucial passes that Trey Lance can't make, passes that Jimmy Garoppolo won't make. Not saying that Brock Purdy is overly talented, but he did do his part to kind of pull us to a victory against the Raiders. And the reason why I'm giving both of them shouts out is because both of those guys are not your ideal prototypical quarterbacks, but they were 4-year starters in college. Purdy went to Iowa State and Pickett went to Pittsburgh. And it means something to have a lot of starts in college. So when you're down in games, you know that you can have the possibility to come back and win those games because you've been in those situations many times because you're not at top tier programs. Brock Purdy got his ass kicked by Oklahoma and Texas every year. Kenny Pickett was getting his ass kicked by Clemson. So it's like they didn't have the best personnel like other quarterbacks at Ohio State might have to compete against these other schools. So you kind of, and be honest with you, the NFL is littered with guys like this that came from lesser known colleges, not the big Power 5 or championship schools, and made a name for themselves in the NFL. So I just want to give both of those quarterbacks a shout out. And to Brian's point, I talked about some people that weren't Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. So it's all good.
Did it. You did it. Me? You know what? Nothing huge this week. And there's plenty of talk about going on in the Republican Party and Bruce's Beach. And these are all stories that are worth looking up. But my heart goes out to all the people who are dealing with flooding right now. I know the Bay Area had a lot of it all the way up into Sac. They're talking about flash floods down here over the next couple of days. It's just a lot of water accumulating. There's no place else for it to go. And so now it's kind of, it's creeping up. But the East Coast is now done with the big chill. And now the temperature's starting to heat up and all that snow is turning to water. Now places like Buffalo, which had under feet of snow, are talking about flooding. It's just, it's interesting times. And so, all those people who were wondering what global warming really is about, if you look it up, it's not about it being hotter. It's about having very erratic and crazy temperature changes over short periods of times, like this. We had 87 degrees for Christmas and flash flood warnings the Tuesday following.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, and we also got, I don't know if you guys know this, in the Bay Area, they have some, I forgot it, but they got atmospheric storm that's supposed to happen tomorrow. Yeah, so
have you ever never been in one of those?
No.
It's basically like being under a bucket for a relatively short period of time. So I mean, it's a ton of water all at once.
Okay, so we're getting 10 years worth of rain in California in about a couple weeks. So
yeah, and the disappointing part, this is getting way into the weeds, but disappointing part is we don't have an infrastructure to keep all of that water.
Yeah, right.
So it's not like you'd think, hey, the drought that we've been worrying about this year is solved. Yeah. Not even a little bit, because we're not getting enough water into our aqueducts. We're not being able to store it. We don't have drainage that goes to the right places.
Yep.
The flash flood water isn't being filtered into storm drains. Instead, it's just washed away and gone forever.
Yep. GB, you got one?
Man, just a shout out to everybody who watches the show, man. We appreciate you guys checking in, tuning in, listening. Jilly, Mom, Cressa, family, Jelani, all the family Dread, everybody checks us out, family and friends. We appreciate you all. Anybody who checked us out new and you got this far, we show rocking with you. So I definitely appreciate anybody who listens to us talk about our nonsense with sports that we love. And just shout out to the boy Stiddy, you know what I mean? Young Stiddy, up and coming QB out here, man. But appreciate y'all for listening. Thanks guys for doing this. It's Sports Counterpoints, January 3rd, 2023. We'll check y'all next time. Peace.
Thank you. All right.